Hello, everyone. My name is Julie, and I thought I would come on to share another one of my astral experiences. So this happened from a lucid dream, which can happen sometimes for me and for others. So I was having just a regular dream, and I recognized something off in the dream. And I became lucid and realized, oh, I'm having a dream here. And I thought, okay, what do I need to do next to have an astral projection? Because rather than continuing in a lucid dream, which you can do, I have been preferring to try to project from there and have more of an astral projection, hoping to have something out of my own subconscious and maybe meet actual independent consciousnesses and independent, like other astral realities. So I remembered one of the suggestions, which I tried. I looked down at my hands and which I could see, and I said, clarity now. And they became clearer. And then I could see the dream starting to fade. And I said, take me to an astral realm. So I had this intention and I verbalized it. And suddenly I'm whooshed off. And I feel this familiar sinking sensation that during that time I would often get before I was ready to have an astral projection. Your sensations will change over time, and sometimes you'll go back to a familiar sensation from months before, and they can change, they can vary. So I felt this familiar sinking sensation, and I kept having like, it was interesting. It was a little different because I would sink and then I would settle and start to sink and then sort of settle in. And then I often have what I call clairaudience. So I hear like audio sounds in my ears, very clear, very not too loud, but just very clear. But with this, so I started feeling the sinking sensation, and then I'd hear static. And then sort of like on a radio station where you're like, if you're changing stations on a radio and you'll hear that static before it settles in and finds the right frequency, and then you can hear what the announcer is saying. So I would get that when I would be sinking, I'd hear the static. And then when I started settling in, I'd hear a person speaking, like on the radio, or other times I'd have the sinking and the static, and then I'd settle in and I'd hear music. It was very interesting. Like that kept going back and forth a few times. And I thought, what is this unusual experience? I've never had this in a dream before. You know, at this time, I'm feeling pretty aware, like you are aware in a lucid dream. And so like I said, I had this like a few times, and then my awareness starts to become stronger. But I keep having this in and out, sinking and settling sensation. And I thought maybe I'm traveling through dimensions of some sort. It's a very pleasant experience. I enjoyed it. So I realized after, when I came out of it and looking back at it, I think I ended up in at least 3 different places, maybe more, but I only brought 2 back to my memory after these experiences. And I'm going to share those with you, which happens very often with astral projectors. They don't always bring back all their memories from their experiences. That's one of the a learning curve, I guess, that we have to go through. So after I settle, in one of these times that I'm settling in and I'm hearing, and I'm in a scene, and in this situation, I feel very blissful. I have this sensation come over my whole being that I'm home. It's like this feeling that I have, like I'm more at home than I've ever been on earth. And I remember I started crying, kind of weeping and saying, I don't want to go back. I'm just telling you the memories that I brought back. I'm sure there's a lot more that I experienced at the time, but this is all I remember. And I said, I don't want to go back. I refuse, albeit it was a gentle refusal, you know, gently saying, look, I don't want to go back. And I remember thinking, it's not so bad just to stay away from my body, you know, that's back on earth and stay here. What's wrong with that? What could be so wrong with just hanging out here? And I just remember that strong feeling. So then I was whooshed away from there. And then the same thing with the sinking in and static, and then it starts to settle in and I can hear like it's tuning into a radio station or something, or into a frequency. And the scene came into view, and I remember being in bed at someone's home, and there was also a bunk bed in the corner of the room, and there were 3 kids in there with me. The youngest really reminded me of my oldest son when he was about 9 years old. And he said, I would like to try. And I knew what he meant. So he merged his thoughts into my thoughts and experienced what I was seeing in the etheric realm in the room, because I was seeing the physical, whatever that physical reality was, and I was also seeing the etheric at the same time, or some people call the near earth. And he was able to merge his thoughts with mine, and he could see what I was seeing. Like we had already done this before. And then we heard adults in the outside room, and they were talking. I don't know. I don't know if I was a kid or an adult in this experience, but we heard adults talking in the outside room, and that it wasn't safe to go outside yet. And then we saw out the window that it was dark, it was night, it was evening, and but we saw this etheric form appear that looked sort of like a 6-foot tall man passing by and glancing through the window. And I didn't feel afraid. I knew the boy that was merging his thoughts with me, that reminded me of my son in this life, that he wasn't afraid either, but we knew we should not invite him in. And then the boy stopped meshing or merging with my thoughts. And then there was another little girl, she was about 10 or 11, and I poked her jokingly. I said, hey, you want to go next? Meaning, do you want to join with my thoughts and see what I see? And she chuckled and she said, no. And then at that point, things started to fade, and I kept saying clarity, awareness, because I didn't want it to fade. I wanted to see what else could happen. And then I could see out the window, and it was no longer blackness out there. It was like a beautiful moonlit night, and it kept coming into view and then fading, and then until it all faded and I was back in bed. So that's my unusual experience. This one did happen to take place on the new moon. I checked all of this later. I journal, and then months later I checked just to see if it was on a new moon or a full moon, which my sister had said you should start checking and see if it's easier to project on these days. And it was on a new moon. So yeah, I don't know what any of that meant. It was an interesting experience. I have heard, and it makes sense, that sometimes we do bring dream elements also into we can bring dream elements into our astral projections. So I don't know if I was bringing some dream elements into that, subconscious stuff. But it was a pretty cool experience, especially the beginning stages when I'm sinking and settling, and the clairaudience is just very, very, during those times, it's just so, I'm so conscious and so aware, and like I'm awake almost. I know my physical body is out, but I'm very consciously aware. And that's what's so fascinating to me, to have this very lucid awareness. And then for me, I'm thinking, okay, this is not a dream. I'm clearly awake. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. Hope you enjoyed it. A little bit more insight into some of my experiences, and hope you're having a wonderful day or evening. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.